Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
The following presentation is controversial and may be offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Radio from the heart of America now.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
First hour has already been powerful, to say the least. The second hour is going to be as powerful, if not even more, because my guest for this entire second hour, if we can keep him that long, is Mike Zullo. Mike Zullo, most of you know him well. He's been on Freedom Friday a lot over the last 5 years. He was the lead investigator at the beginning of the cold case posse for Sheriff Joe Arpaio in the Obama fraud case, particularly investigating that birth certificate that Obama posted on the whitehouse.gov and website while he was in office, or Obama himself. He didn't do it, but his administration did. And don't forget, that was in 2011, and that birth certificate was posted at the prodding and the cajoling and the harassing and the bullying, yes, of one Donald J. Trump, who is now the president, in case you didn't know. And so that investigation went on, and we'll talk about that later in the conclusion of it, which most of you know, but some of you, this is still brand new. But the bottom line is we've got a lot of update to tell you about that Obama fraud investigation, the birth certificate saga, where that may be heading, what's been going on. And by the way, it's all still very active, even though you haven't heard Sheriff Joe talk about it very much, or Mike Zullo. And the reason you haven't heard them talking about it much, Mike Zullo, is because Sheriff Joe Arpaio has been involved in court proceedings and now in a criminal trial, criminal contempt case trial. You were even dragged into federal court to testify early on, so that kind of hindered the whole birth certificate thing moving forward, one among many things. But anyway, it's good to have you with us, Mike Zullo. I'm looking forward to this hour because there's so much to unpack here.
Thanks, Carl. Good afternoon. It's great to be back with you.
Yeah, well, it is good to have you, and I know a lot of folks are listening because they want to hear what you have to say, but I'm just trying to set it up. So, Mike, do this for us. I know this last, I think it was yesterday, the closing arguments for Sheriff Arpaio's criminal case were laid out, and I want you to catch people up on this whole thing and do a quick review of how it all started and then bring it up to where we are today. And we're doing this for the sake of new listeners who don't really know all of this. Now, our people that have been with us for years, they know this thing backwards and forwards. But give a review, Mike. Bring them up to date where we are, what happened this week, what happened yesterday, and where it goes from here. Let's start talking about this first, because this is important. And you and I know, and Sheriff Arpaio has said, that he believes all this is connected to the birth certificate investigation in the first place. So catch us up on all of it.
Well, Carl, going back a number of years under the Obama administration, the ACLU filed a lawsuit against Sheriff Arpaio on behalf of a couple of illegal aliens that claimed that they were illegally detained and asked about their citizenship and then subsequently turned over for deportation to ICE, I believe it was, or the Border Patrol. Whichever agency they did that with. Going forward, it had been determined by a Judge Murray Snow, a federal judge here in Phoenix, that Arpaio did in fact violate these individuals' rights. Now, that whole court proceeding, that civil part of that proceeding, is being highly contested and appealed by Arpaio and his attorneys. Mm-hmm. However, during the course of that, the judge had issued a preliminary injunctive order trying to curtail Arpaio's activities as it came to enforcing any type of immigration statute. Mm-hmm. That was issued. Arpaio got the order. Arpaio tried to interpret the order as best he could, and there was a conflict between federal law and state law. Arpaio still had state powers, state law enforcement powers, which under the state of Arizona, there were certain things that could be done to deal with that kind of situation of illegal immigration. Arpaio subsequently continued some of his operations. The judge later determined that he believed Arpaio intentionally violated his order and referred Sheriff Arpaio to the DOJ for possible criminal prosecution for contempt of court for violating that order. Speeding things up, and this is a very condensed version. This thing went on for years.
I know.
Speeding it up, Sheriff Arpaio had to endure, just up until Thursday, a criminal contempt proceeding where he was the defendant, and the allegations from the DOJ was that he willfully and intentionally violated the federal judge's order. As of yesterday, closing arguments on both sides were concluded, and we won't know anything till way after the 21st of this month. The judge has more information she needs to get from attorneys, and she has to then make her ruling. But what I understand, and I was not inside the courtroom, but from what I understand, the federal government basically had no case. And as they are putting this thing on, in the closing arguments are brilliantly disclosed audio cassette recordings of a appeals panel. Arpaio tried to appeal this a number of months ago. He was turned down. However, the audio recordings of this 3 judges on this appeal panel, they are clearly heard stating that they themselves have difficulty understanding the original judge's preliminary injunctive order.
Right.
Now, those are 3 appeals judges.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the order.
Right.
Now, going back to the civil trial, Arpaio actually, when this was brought up in that original civil case, actually said to the judge that if I violated your order, it was unintentional. I didn't purposely do it. That wasn't good enough for this judge, and he referred him for criminal charges.
Right.
So the way that this is sitting right now is we have to wait, and we have to see, what's going to transpire after the 21st. If it's like anything else that has gone on in this trial, the civil trial, the part of it that I was involved in, and this, it's just another railroading just to hurt Arpaio.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were successful, the DOJ, in hurting him during his reelection, where the DOJ, I believe it was 3 or 4 days before early voting started for his reelection campaign, is when the Department of Justice decided they were going to charge Sheriff Arpaio.
Right.
And it was right after that, $3 million went into his challenger's war chest supplied by George Soros organizations.
Yes, that's where I was going. And folks, when you hear Mike Zullo talk about the DOJ leveling these charges against Arpaio, think Loretta Lynch, okay? Think Eric Holder, think Barack Obama, and think Obama fraud investigation, birth certificate investigation. There's a connection between it all, Mike. I'm convinced. Well, the sheriff is too, Carl. He's always said this is all because I did that, birth certificate investigation. Right.
And, when you look back at things now and things that are coming out in the news as far as the deep state or the way that these organizations have been running, it's not hard to get to that conclusion. Yeah,
and all the fake news and the ludicrous connections between fake news and the deep state. It's the kind of stuff you and I were talking about years ago and being called conspiracy theorists and nut jobs for. Now it's in the headline news every day.
Yeah, isn't it funny how that happens?
Yeah, I haven't gotten any apology phone calls. Have you?
No, I don't think I wouldn't be holding your breath for those. They're not coming.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Well, listen, I want to go back and address this because you talked about those 3 judges. Now, those were they federal judges?
Yes.
Appeal judges?
They were federal appeals judges.
Okay.
And that had difficulty understanding the preliminary order.
The injunction, yeah. And so now put yourself in Sheriff Arpaio's place. And by the way, Mike, I want to set you up for something else that you said. I want you to explain it because I think it's powerful. So put yourself in Sheriff Arpaio's place, folks. You're the sheriff, duly elected, Maricopa County, for your 6th term. Prior to that, you're 30 years in federal law enforcement as district supervisor stationed in the Middle East, Western United States, and in Mexico. So 50-something years in law enforcement, 6-term sheriff of Maricopa County, the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation, with a terrible, terrible influx of illegals. And you're trying to protect your citizens, so you're enforcing federal laws, and all of a sudden you get this injunction because Obama has a pen and a phone, and he decides he's going to open the borders. You get this federal injunction saying, no, you can't do that anymore. But in the meantime, the injunction itself is almost indiscernible, uninterpretable. We've got 3 judges on audio tape basically saying the same thing. 3 federal judges saying, we can't make heads or tails of this either, the way it was written. So you got a sheriff looking at it saying, not only can I not make heads or tails of this, Mike, but I'm serving the citizens of Maricopa County, and I'm a state constitutional law enforcement officer, and the state of Arizona has laws about illegals, and if I don't enforce those laws, then I can get into trouble with the state Department of Justice, if you will, the state attorney general's office. I mean, I've got to enforce these state laws. I've got to enforce the laws to protect the people of my county. And then you've got this injunction from a federal judge that the sheriff says, I don't get this. And 3 federal judges said, we don't get this. So Sheriff Arpaio took this to his attorneys, and several times the attorneys interpreted it and said, well, you can still enforce the state laws. And then he gets dragged into court and says, you're in contempt, you're a criminal, we're going to put you in jail. Did I summarize that correctly, Mike?
Yeah, you did, Carl. And, the fact of the matter is, my understanding, and I did speak to Arpaio's attorney, so it's not like I'm getting this from some news reporter, because we all know about fake news. But my understanding is, the witnesses called by the DOJ to testify against Arpaio actually helped Arpaio.
Yeah.
Not one of those witnesses ever said that Arpaio told them to disregard that order, never instructed them to disregard that order, never thumbed his nose at that order, nothing of the sort.
And those were witnesses called by the prosecution because they apparently thought somehow that these witnesses were going to come in and impugn Arpaio, and rather than impugn him, they basically said, the guy didn't intend to do anything. He's not guilty of any criminal action.
And that's the basis of that kind of criminal contempt, is you need a criminal mindset. You need a willful, wanton decision to go forward and violate this order.
And the only way that could happen would be if he got the injunction and it was black and white, clear, and every judge that read it said, oh my gosh, this is clear, you can't do this. And if Arpaio had gone to the media and said, by God, I'm going to do it anyway, I don't care. And that would have been criminal. But none of that happened. It didn't happen that way.
No, and Carl, when this thing finally gets adjudicated, which we fully expect Sheriff Arpaio will be vindicated in this, then we're going to make arrangements to have his attorney on your show, because when you hear what the DOJ actually did, you will lose complete confidence in the Department of Justice.
Yeah, hopefully in this new one we won't, but in what happened in the last 8 years for sure. I know, brother. I hear you. Mike, we've got to take a time out. Folks, we got to take a quick time out. Listen, Mike's going to be with us to the end of the show, and we've got a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit more about this trial, and then we're going to get into the saga, the ongoing saga of that fake, fraudulent, forensically proven fake birth certificate. And where in the world is that going to go? You're going to hear some exclusive stuff here in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In a world where nothing is certain, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
Radio from the heart of America now.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. Mike Zullo, my guest this afternoon. The former lead detective of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office cold case posse in the beginning, but then he started working directly for and under the auspices of Sheriff Joe Arpaio as that case progressed over the years. And Mike Zullo has been on our program many, many times over the last 5 years, divulging breaking information on this show and keeping folks updated on what was happening, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the exciting and the frustrating, the earth-shattering and the mundane. Mike Zullo has been right here in Freedom Friday doing that for years. And Mike, I want to thank you for being so faithful to all of this. I know it has been grueling for you and your family, your time, your effort, your energy, financially, everything else. Yet you and Sheriff Arpaio, and the thing that just really kind of ticks me off, Mike, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, is, and I don't know if you want to comment on this or not, this is just my comment. I don't know, and you can correct me, I don't know of another single law enforcement agency that made any official overtures to Sheriff Arpaio and yourself to say, hey, we're in there with you. We want to help you. What can we do? Give us something we can do. We know this is a fraud, or we believe it is, and we want to help this. We want to stand and guard our Constitution and guard our government and guard our nation. But you didn't get any of that. Nobody. Everybody was kind of, well, let Joe do it. Let Joe do it.
Carl, it was actually worse than that. The professional ridicule that we received was worse than anything the media could do.
Yeah.
And one of these days when this is all over, you and I will have to carve out some time and we can go into it because you know a lot about it.
Yeah. Well, you took the word. I was going to say, before you started saying, I was going to say, you know what, Mike, one of these days when this is all over, I promise you, those were the words coming out of my mouth. I was going to say, I'm going to have you back on the show and we're going to out some people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. We're going to out some people because we have had people lie and malign and ridicule and marginalize, and some of these have come from the professional field of law enforcement, and they have been dead wrong, and they're getting ready to find out.
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see exactly what happens here. There's a lot going on in Washington, and it makes it difficult to move forward.
I know. Hey, listen, before we get on the birth certificate, and there's so much more we're going to talk about, but let's wrap this up about Sheriff Joe's trial because, okay, so we had closing arguments yesterday. So what happens next? When can we expect some kind of ruling? I mean, how does this thing pan out from here?
The way I understand it is Arpaio's attorneys have to turn in some more documentation to the judge by the 21st of this month. And I guess at that point in time, she takes it under review, and, it could be 24 minutes, it could be 24 days before she renders a decision, so we'll have to sit and wait.
Right, but it's not going to come before July 21st.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but let's just we're going to tease the birth certificate saga, and when we come back on the other side, we'll really delve into it and how it connects to today's environment and voter fraud and fake news media and the Russian interference in the elections and intelligence agencies and fake news and leaks coming from the FBI, James Comey. I mean, good gosh, a lot of that I believe is tied to where we're headed with the birth certificate. But let me just say this, Mike, and you agree or disagree and add to. Bottom line, the issue of the birth certificate is settled and solved. Law enforcement, forensically, courtroom ready, affidavits in hand, 2 international document examination entities, expert entities that are used to train law enforcement around the world, testify in courts in different places around the world. They have signed off. They've produced the affidavits. Your 5-year investigation proves beyond doubt that birth certificate on the White House website not only was a fake and a fraud and a fabrication, but you also possess the birth certificate, the original, or the real one from which it was constructed, at least one of them. You've got it, one Johanna Ani, and those 2 document expert companies have looked at all of that and said, yep, that birth certificate of Obama's was fabricated from that. So it's been solved. Now it just needs to be adjudicated, right? Congressional committee could settle this thing in 15 minutes.
Well, the part of the PDF file has been solved, but Carl, this is deeper and this is darker. This is a conspiracy, and this is going to branch out to a lot of different government entities as this thing unfolds. Yeah. And in the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing some more information that we discovered in this investigation, and I think your folks may just want to sit back and wait for you to announce it because it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah. And, you and I said several years ago, earth-shattering, universe-shattering, and a lot of it tied to this connectivity to various government agencies that you've come across. We'll talk more about that on the other side. I hear the music, Mike, so we're going to have to go here. for a few seconds, and then we'll come back. Let's delve into this thing knee deep. Okay, Mike Zullo?
Sounds good.
Okay, good deal. Well, folks, you are listening to Freedom Friday. Carl Gallups. We're broadcasting live, 1330 WEBY, Gulf Coast Talk Radio. Mike Zullo's in the house, and we're going to bring him back to finish out and round out this next segment and this show. And he's going to give you some revelations about where this birth certificate saga is headed. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for this?
For mature audiences only.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right. We are back in the house, folks. We're at the bottom of the second hour. My guest this afternoon for this entire hour, Mike Zullo, and former lead investigator of the Obama fraud case under the Sheriff Joe Arpaio regime. And but the deal is that case was wrapped up, and press conference held, Mike Zullo, December 2016. I was there in Phoenix when you and Sheriff Arpaio did that. And so it's not going away because well, tell folks how it cannot go away, even though Sheriff Arpaio is out of office and you're not officially with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office anymore. How is it that it can't go away?
Because the investigation was conducted and concluded while he still was the acting sheriff. And information from that investigation has been placed into the hands of certain Congress people for preservation.
Yep.
And that investigation, what I've always said that your audience needs to understand is that investigation was conducted as a criminal investigation. However, the intent here was never to put anybody in handcuffs. It was to pass it off as investigational information to a federal agency in the future.
Right, right.
And it's a roadmap, basically, is what it is.
Yes, and we're going to talk about the environment of that federal. Well, we're going to talk about that federal environment, that you were trying to hand it off in during the Obama years. And even in the early Trump months, a lot of that environment still exists. And so things have to be shuffled into place, right, Mike? I mean, things have to happen, but I'm fairly confident, and I think you are too, and you can answer for yourself, and that as soon as this Sheriff Joe Arpaio criminal case is over, this thing could leap forward, especially if he's found not guilty, even if he is found guilty, because those are two different things. But I really think it can be lunged forward, and I know, and I'll let you speak for yourself, but I know that you have been contacted by congressmen, you have had conversations with congressmen. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you still have some coming. I know I've got a congressman that contacted me just a few weeks ago. He's wanting to meet with me. We're going to make that happen very soon, and I'm assuming he's going to want to know, how to get deeper in contact with you and Sheriff Arpaio on this. So this thing is still active, and then we got to remember the man that started the whole thing is Donald Trump, who's now the president.
Yeah, it's almost surreal in one sense, because yes, he did start it. Yes, he did push it. You had Jerry Corsi prepared to release a book questioning the validity of that document, and then mysteriously the document is provided in a PDF file. It's never seen the light of day. The public has never seen the actual hard copy. But going forward, with that, what we have said over and over, Carl, is, we took a lot of heat because people were screaming, why aren't you doing anything?
Yeah.
Maybe people can understand now there was no place for us to turn.
Right.
We couldn't go to the FBI. We couldn't go to the DOJ. We tried Congress people. Nobody wanted to touch it.
Right.
And in the meetings that I've been having, what is even more shocking to me with some of these Congress folk is they're telling me to my face that they know that document is wrong.
Yeah.
They know it's a fabrication. They all point back to the fact that nobody would spend millions of dollars not to release something as easily releasable as a $10 birth certificate.
Right.
And then when I press them on it, I get excuses.
Yeah.
Well, he's already gone, or, we got so much going on now, we really can't pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Those are the excuses that I've been getting.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to the sheriff, and going back to his criminal situation, it is a criminal misdemeanor.
Right.
It's equivalent to a dog barking ticket and a fine.
Right.
That's what this thing is about. So no matter what the outcome is, Sheriff Arpaio intends to begin to push this forward once again.
Right, right. And that's very important. So, listen, and as you were talking, I thought of 4 more things I wanted to interject on, but I need to move this forward because you can always come back on. We'll take another hour soon, and plus there are things that you're going to reveal, as you just said, in the upcoming weeks. But there is something that you can reveal exclusively to our audience tonight about the Hawaii hospitals.
Yeah, there was information, I think, well, if you go back a couple of years ago, I think I actually stated on your radio show that I had a source from one of the hospitals that would not come forward, but guaranteed me that that birth never took place in Kapolani Medical Center as indicated on the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over the last few months, I have gotten now corroborating information along those very same lines. And it's my understanding now that the time when Governor Abercrombie was searching for this birth certificate, which he could not find, they made a request of the administrators at the hospitals in Hawaii to search for any birth records of Mr. Obama's at that time period.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is they did conduct that search. Those administrators all met together, and they all discovered that nobody had those documents.
Right.
Effectively, the birth never took place in any of those hospitals. Now, if you're folks that are familiar with this, go back. You remember Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Mike Evans was a radio personality that went on the radio and declared, because he's a personal friend of Abercrombie's, that the governor himself told him that they can't find the birth certificate. They went to the hospitals, and that birth never took place.
Right, and that was reported in mainstream media. Because when Mike Evans did that, it created a firestorm.
Yes, and we have the file. We have the audio file.
Yeah.
Part of our evidence is the audio file of that.
Right.
Well, I think it was 24 or 48 hours later, somebody got to Mike Evans, and Mike Evans recants his statement saying he didn't talk directly to the governor. He talked to somebody else. I don't believe the second story. I do believe the first story because he was so adamant about what he was saying.
And especially in light of the corroborating evidence that's come forward since then.
Well, and here's the thing, Carl. There'd be no way for Mike Evans to know about the tasks put before the hospitals.
Right.
Unless he was talking to somebody that was in the know.
That was in the task force, yeah.
Exactly. And at that point in time, when he's saying nobody's got any record of the original notion that he was born in Hawaii, I believe it was his stepsister or somebody reported he was born in Queens Medical Center. Now, Queens came right out and said he wasn't born here. We don't have any records.
Right.
Now, how would they know that?
Right.
Why would they even be looking for those records?
Right.
But it was immediate. They came out and declared Kapolani Medical Center will not confirm or deny.
Right. Right. And
so this is gonna open up. I mean, this is very easy. The roadmap is very easy.
Right.
You got the governor's office, you got Kapolani and Department of Health in Hawaii. There's only 3 places you have to go with federal authority to get these answers.
Right. Right. 15 minutes. I mean, the case is already solved. And as I have said before, just common sense tells you there's not a single not a single hospital in any state of the United States that claims officially to be the birthplace of Barack Obama. There's no plaque mounted. There's no statue. There's no declarations and headlines. We are the proud birthplace of Barack Obama, America's first black president. Not a single hospital has officially declared it. Not a single administrator. No one has officially declared it. That stinks to high heaven to me. And that's just circumstantial, but I mean, it ties into everything else you're saying right now.
Well, and Carl, I want to kind of use this as an example, kind of moving forward. If you go back, it was reported in the news, when Donald Trump was supposedly under investigation by the FBI.
Right.
And it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe it was Senator Chuck Grassley, who now is accused the minority leader, Chuck Schumer, of lying. He's part of the Gang of Eight.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer is part, and so is Grassley, part of the Gang of Eight that met with the FBI director, and they were personally told that Donald Trump was not under investigation.
Yeah.
However, Schumer continued the charade.
Yeah.
Pretending Trump was under investigation, lying to the public. Now, if these people will lie about that, How hard do you think it is for them to lie about a PDF file and a birth certificate? Or do something nefarious. Do something behind the scenes. Jick around with some statutes and create a birth document.
Right.
As easy as that is to do in Hawaii. Now you're easing your conscience saying, well, we're telling you the truth. Hawaii recognizes this as the official document.
Right.
But that's not the official document because there is no official document. It was conjured up.
Yes. And here's the
give an impression.
And here's the other thing, Mike, that ties into what you're saying that I want our audience to hear. Mike just said, how easy would it have been? Well, think of it like this. Mike Zullo, Sheriff Arpaio, and in the beginning, Cold Case Posse, so another group of people, you had all of these people examining this, and they're saying, they're coming from an official law enforcement standpoint under the auspices of a 6-term sheriff of the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. Mike Zullo with prior investigative experience, and then, of course, employed by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, or at least brought under the auspices of the Cold Case Posse, and answers directly to the sheriff, involved in a 5-year forensic examination with 2 international companies signing off on it saying, they're right, this is a bunch of fake and fraud. This stuff didn't come from some back-channel, dark alley conspiracy theory website. It came from the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation, and not a single congressional hearing was conducted on mountains of forensic evidence right before their face. Not only did they not conduct it, they never even went and sat down with the sheriff and said, let us see what you have. On the other hand, they started an entire investigation on the Russia-Trump collusion with not a single piece of evidence, not a single government official who came forward to say, we've got the forensics. Nothing, Mike, nothing. And they conducted this hearing. And finally, they dragged Comey in, who said, no, he's not an investigation. No, there's no connection. And by the way, I'm the leaker. I mean, Mike, this thing is so surreal. It stinks to high heaven for 535 congressmen to completely ignore the criminal investigation of the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. Brother, they are complicit in this one way or the other. That's my opinion, Mike.
Well, Carl, I would agree with you and go one step further. You got to ask why. What are they worried about?
What are they hiding?
Is this a deep state kind of thing that they're worried about? What dirt does somebody have on me?
Sure it is.
Because, if the public has to understand what the deep state is. It's not like an organization.
Right.
What it is, it's lifetime career bureaucrats that stay consistent in the change of powers in our government.
Right.
Yet these people are still there. So if you kind of think about it, it's kind of like a sandwich. The new heads of departments are named by the new sitting president, the new administration. Then you have that whole layer in the middle of lifers, 10, 20-year career bureaucrats, and underneath them you have the new hires. So what happens? You might have the department heads wanting to carry out the mission of the president, but yet these 10, 20-year bureaucrats, they don't want to upset this apple cart.
Right.
They don't want to happen what's going to happen here, so they drop the ball.
Right.
Or they don't release information the way they're supposed to release it.
Yeah.
Or they conceal information. Or they put out false information. And then you have the new hires that are underneath them. They're none the wiser.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't know. So move that kind of scenario forward, because what they did in the birth certificate is the media came out and they've called all these findings debunked.
Right.
I can tell you right now, nobody of any reputation has debunked those findings.
No one has. There's no debunking of it. No, that's more fake news reporting.
That's exactly what it is. So, let's bring this up to a little more of a contemporary time frame. Let's look at the 17 intelligence agencies that all confirmed there was collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
Now it's been reported that there were only 3.
Yeah.
There are no 17.
That's right.
Nobody knew who these 17 players were, and now it's only 3. But here's the rub, Carl. Who are the 3? FBI, CIA, NSA.
And we've got some scoop on that. Listen, I'm hearing the music play. Let's go take this break. When we come back, I'm going to let you continue because this is important, okay?
Yes.
Okay, folks, this is important. You're listening to Freedom Friday. Carl Gallups, my guest, Mike Zullo. We're getting ready to go deep state on you when you come back. Don't go anywhere.
You might be a liberal, if you claim that you cannot stand Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, yet you listen anyway to every word that falls from his mouth. You just cannot help yourself. Stay tuned, you will not be disappointed. Now, here's Carl Gallups.
Yes, here's Carl Gallups, and here you are. Freedom Friday, Carl Gallups. Welcome to the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio. Mike Zullo is my guest. Before I bring Mike back in and we continue on with this earth-shattering revelations and insight, and there'll be more coming. He'll come back on in a few weeks because he's got more stuff to share, more exclusive stuff and breaking information. We'll talk about that later, plus the Sheriff Arpaio criminal trial, and when that's done, we'll report on that. We'll get his attorney on, and we might get Sheriff Joe on. But anyway, in the meantime, for our folks on the Gulf Coast, I want you to know this. Energy Savers of Florida, they service the entire Northwest Florida area and Southwest Alabama. If you have heating and cooling needs, you need Energy Savers of Florida. If you have a heat pump and or an air conditioning and heating system, you need Energy Savers of Florida. They provide services for home diagnostics and energy audits and heating systems and cooling systems and air sealing systems and insulation systems and solar systems and duct repair, all of that and so much more. Energy Savers of Florida. You save money, save energy, and you live more comfortably by people who know what they're doing. And they're so reasonably priced. They're so professional. Go to their website, Energy Savers of Florida. Check under their guarantee section. It's going to blow you away what you read there. Chuck Santler, he's the owner. Great guy. Thousands of people know him, love him, use him, depend upon him. Chuck Santler, Energy Savers of Florida. 983-6688. 983-6688 is the phone number. 983-6688. And, of course, that's area code 850. Entire Northwest Florida area and Southwest Alabama. Energy Savers of Florida. All right, Mike Zullo, are you still there, brother?
Yeah, I am, Carl.
Okay, good deal. So, now, the fake news was reporting 17 intelligence agencies tell us that Trump is involved with Russia. And then it went from 17, well, it really wasn't 17, it was 3. And then that's where we cut off because you said it was the FBI, CIA, NSA. But then Comey comes along and basically busts all that up. And then you and I, well, not me, but I've been reporting on it. But you, Sheriff Arpaio, Larry Clayman, you have an asset involved in all this too. So tie it all together.
Well, we do, Carl. And, Dennis Montgomery is a familiar name to your audience. He was a CIA contractor responsible for developing the hacking software that has allowed our three-letter agencies to hack computer systems around the world and collect all your information. And during our time with him, he had disclosed to us a rather unnerving situation that he was put into, where he was asked to hack into the voter rolls of Florida and download all that information. And the only time in his 10 years working for these agencies, a couple weeks later, he was given a hard drive and asked to upload information back in to the Florida voter roll computers, which was a time he had never uploaded anything. Everything that they did was collecting information. Well, it was a couple months back, right before the presidential election, and the state of Georgia had an attempt to hack into their voters' records, except they traced the IP address back to the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, through a foreign contractor who was their cybersecurity agency. They contacted Georgia and said, hey, your own NSA is in your voter rolls right now.
Right. Now, you have to understand, this is something Montgomery had shared with us.
Yes.
The IP address may not, in fact, be the actual IP address that is always used in those breaches. So it could be another agency actually just posing as an IP address from Department of Homeland Security. Because to our knowledge, Homeland Security doesn't breach computers. The CIA, NSA do that kind of work. My understanding is at times the FBI has the authority to do that kind of work. Well, according to Dennis Montgomery, the NSA, CIA were both utilizing his services along with the FBI, where they would get information that was obtained during these surveillances and then use those to bring forward different investigation tactics that they were utilizing in their ongoing investigations. That's where you get into parallel construction, where if to give an analogy for you, is if I know there's going to be 500 pounds of marijuana in a brown pickup truck with this license plate, I don't want to give up my source. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a DUI checkpoint and stop every vehicle on the night that I believe that truck is coming through town.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to stop that truck, and then I'm sure I'm going to smell some kind of odor, and I'm going to call for a drug dog, and the dog is going to alert and hit on the vehicle, and we're going to seize the 500 pounds and arrest the driver.
And nobody will ever know that you had a confidential informant.
Or I obtained information that maybe I should not have had.
Right.
So the thing that is, very concerning at this point is you've got these three-letter agencies that the government is putting up there as if these people are the bellwether for morality and truth.
Right.
And according to Montgomery and information that he had provided and things that are coming out in the news, that is far from the truth.
Right. And
So we don't know what this Russian hacking is about, but the other thing Montgomery did alert us to is they do have the capability, and this came out in the news, and we knew this 3 years ago, they have the ability to make it look like a foreign entity did the breaching when it was actually done within the borders of the United States.
And let me defend you because we're out of time now. Years ago, you were saying that you had come across information that you consider to be universe-shattering, historic in nature. This is a part of it. There's still more, but this is a huge part of it. You were prohibited from talking about it, and you were called a liar, a fraud, a fake, a conspiracy theorist. But now it's headline news, what you knew years ago.
That's exactly right, Carl, and there's more.
Yep, there's more. And you're gonna disclose some of it right here on Freedom Friday coming up soon, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good deal. Mike, I got to go. I hear the music. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We're going to have you back soon.
Thanks, Carl. You have a good day.
Okay, you too. God bless you. And folks, God bless you too. This is why you listen to Freedom Friday. Look what you've learned today by listening to this program. Then you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Jesus.